name is David Gardner. I'm the Executive Director of the North Carolina Center for Health and Wellness at the University of North Carolina, Asheville. And I want to welcome you to the live streams of the keynote addresses for the National Physical Education Institute for 2014 for Tuesday, July 29th. I hope you enjoy and will participate in all of the live stream broadcast.
Thank you very much for your excitement and enjoyment. We come to a very special time at the 2014 National PE Institute. It's a time of reflection, it's a time of giving, it's a time of rejoicing for all the many individuals that have contributed much through their hard work and successful efforts in trying to reform physical education. We know we're not there yet. We're getting better and better, but we're not there yet. But on behalf of the Planning Committee, we'd like to thank each of you for coming this year and bring a buddy next year. The dates for next year are July 27th, 28th, and 29th. It will be the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, just like it is this year. So please try to bring a buddy or a friend. During the next 15 minutes or so, for some of us, this is going to be a very emotional time because we're talking about individuals that have impacted our lives, very special individuals. Just please keep that in mind. Our first Legacy Award winner is Dr. Kate Barrett. And to introduce Kate is a good friend, Larry Satchwell.
Thank you, Artie. What a privilege it is to introduce Dr. Kate Barrett. Her legacy is woven into the DNA of what we now call physical education. She was an elite athlete in her own right, making 2 national teams in lacrosse. She taught in England for more than 2 years, bringing back with her a wealth of knowledge about movement education. She helped my generation transition from squirrels in the trees and duck, duck, goose to skill progression and development. If you're younger than 45 years of age, you cannot understand the revolutionary struggle that was for our profession. She helped us understand that movement education was not just anything goes and free movement. It was not just a 2-week unit or a chapter in a book. She was leading students through guided discovery to skill acquisition and deliberate practice before those teaching modalities had labels. In my opinion, she's one of the foundation stones of modern physical education on which we are building today. My privilege and honor to introduce Dr. Kate Barrett. Dr. Barrett.
We were just discussing that I can still walk up the stairs. Thank you, Larry, and thank you, Artie. It's with great honor that I receive this honor. I don't like the idea of talking about legacies. That kind of makes you a little nervous. But if I can say, if all of you can look back and leave one, I think you should be very proud. Now, as I haven't been to conventions in a long while, and as I look at you out there, it does bring back some memories. And I have sat in seats just as you have sat in them for many a conference and many meeting. And I have been overwhelmed by ideas, and at the same time, I got very excited about them. I was going to change the whole world, and then the next minute I got entirely frustrated. Because how was I going to keep up with all this? What was I going to do with it? How can you actually carve out a direction for yourself? And so I'll just say a couple things that helped me. One is I was able somehow to be able to identify ideas that had power. Now think about that. In other words, they're not just an idea. With your ability, you can do something with it. I also was able to figure out about the idea what I knew, what I didn't know, and if I didn't know it, I could find out how to do it. At the same time, which is very critical, I was able to grapple with the difference between a trend and a fad. Now, these are hard concepts, but as Larry was talking about, you probably got a sense, when I was most active, and I've just re-met a student I had in the 80s, and I have no idea what she's thinking now. It's kind of fun, and I will talk with her later. But I was somebody who always chose to go against the stream. So I had to know the power of the idea to get there. And I haven't met many of you. I would like to meet some of you. This is a very exciting conference. I've heard about it for the last 2 years, and I'm thrilled to death to be here, to see it in action. And I know that many years to come it'll be here. And of course, how can you miss in the North Carolina mountains? That I can tell you. I live close by here, and I do spend a lot of time in these beautiful mountains, so I really appreciate it. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I thank both of you. We have fond memories. We spent all last night talking about them, and I'm very anxious to meet some of you. Thank you very much.
Our next recipient is Dr. Alan Canonico. And to introduce him is a good friend and buddy, Mr. Greg Montgomery.
Thank you, Artie. I met Al in the late 60s. He came to our college. Went to college in Alderson Broaddus. Now it's University in Philippi, West Bygod, Virginia. Al began the conference in 1969. I didn't attend until 1972. Camp Caesar, the grandfather of physical education conferences in the country, the model program, which this institute is kind of based on the same premise. I learned these things at Camp Caesar. I learned that Al invented the baseball glove. I learned that real men can hug. There's a guy, Tom Neal, we met there. Tom Neal has about a 56-inch chest, and he taught us to hug. I learned that real men can do line dance. I learned that a woman's place is in the home, first, second, and third base. I learned that life isn't about how much money you make, it's about how many friends you can acquire. I learned that 700 people can stay in a camp that only sleeps 450 and nobody complained. I learned that I could do the 2K run because a gentleman who had no legs said he was doing the 2K run. So I said, if Craig Lyon from Ohio, who has 2 artificial legs, can run the 2K, I can do it too. I learned that God don't make no junk from Ambrose Brazelton. I learned that if you attend a conference and you learn one thing and you meet some people and you decide that I really have a job that makes a difference, that's all that matters. I met some of the greatest people and presenters in the country because Al brought them to Camp Caesar. And I learned that I need to go spread the gospel of physical education, started by Al, Ambrose Brazelton, and many others. And our Lake Conference in New Jersey is going to have its 25th anniversary, September 26th, 27th, and 28th this year, thanks to Al Canonico. Al is from New Jersey, so many of you didn't realize that. Al is from Red Bank, New Jersey, so today I would like to make you an official honorary Jersey boy with my friends from Flag House, and we go around the country making these workshops. And Al, please, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Al Canonico, Dr. Alan Canonico.
Thank you. It was a surprise that Greg came here to introduce me. I had no idea. We've been emailing for ages and never mentioned it. So his being here is just, makes me real excited. The reason I'm not standing behind the podium, because by now, whenever I get up to speak in West Virginia, someone yells out, "Hey Al, stand up." So, and Greg usually does that to me, so I'm going to stand over here. This is too high. I am really excited. You know, I'm just a guy, came from Jersey after high school to West Virginia to go to school. I went on an athletic scholarship and ended up staying for the next 60 years in West Virginia and met some great and wonderful people, including Greg, at some of our conferences. I was excited when I was asked to receive the Legacy Award. I really was, because your peers select you to do that, and that's what makes it really important. But really, what really excited me about being here is when I learned that Dr. Kate Barrett was also going to be considered at the same time, as well as Ambrose Brazelton. These are two giants in the field of physical education, and I am definitely not a giant in physical education. I worked hard, I'm old school, I met a lot of wonderful people and tried to motivate them with skills throughout life. Dr. Barrett, she motivated me. She taught me that in order for children to grow physically and develop academically, they have to move. And so I said, boy, that is really true. To help children grow and learn, they have to move. And Dr. Barrett taught me that. She also taught me 3 words that have stuck in my mind all these years. And that's ready, set, go. So she had an impact on me. And the only way to get here in Legacy is to have people like that who help you grow and develop. Now, Ambrose Brazelton, he's just something else, and I'll talk a little about Braz a little bit later, but he also had an impact on my life, and I just cannot say how much he has meant to me. But to be here and accept the Legacy Award is thrilling and exciting. And after all these presentations, then we get to hear Shannon Miller, a great American champion. So I'm just thrilled to be here to receive the Legacy Award and to know my peers have thought enough of me to give me that award. 99.9% of you have no idea who I am, never met me before. So I thank you for being here and putting up with me, and I thank you, Artie, and everyone else in the committee who selected me for this award. Thank you very much.
Our last awardee and last presenter is Mr. Larry McDonald. And as you could see from Braz's picture, he passed away in 2010. And he has already left a legacy. To speak briefly about Braz is Larry McDonald. You could do it.
Ambrose Brazelton, Affectionately known as Braz, I wear these dress blues as Braz would, as a member of the Hall of Fame at Camp Caesar in West Virginia. Another Hall of Fame member is Artie, and Jim, Greg, Al, and we're all here. And in West Virginia, Braz had his own rocking chair at that conference and used it regularly. Over 40 years ago, Dr. Otto Spilker from Western Carolina brought Braz in to speak, and the rest is history. I've had the opportunity to meet his family, his daughter Leslie, his son Carl, who he and I spent some time at National in Atlantic City, and we can't go into any details about that. And his wife Amanda, who I call her every year on September 3rd, as she shares birthdays with our youngest son, Spencer. Braz and I have laughed, hugged, and cried many times. He always would say, life is beautiful. He just had a way about him that was special. And I already mentioned it excuse me, about Braz would say, there is hope. He would look at some of the younger people. And again, Joy Fight is an example of that. There is hope, and that comes from Braz. A reflection of the man is exemplified in the poems that he wrote. What Phys Ed Ain't, I know you've heard that, and Keeping Children First. And he wrote many more. Whenever we would meet or part, we'd always hug and say, I love you. Every time, every time. In 1983, Al Canonico and Ambrose Brazelton were keynoters at the North Carolina Physical Education Leadership Training. And Braz ended the conference with Ronnie Millsap's song, What a Difference You Make in My Life. And what a difference Braz has made in the lives of many. Braz, I love you. To accept this award for Braz is his good friend, Al Canonico.
Larry, thank you. And I'm pleased, again, to be up here to talk about Braz the man. And again, a lot of you probably have never met this gentleman, but he's one of the main reasons that I'm here today. And I just want to tell you something about the man. If I had to tell you everything, I would be here for the entire conference and 10 years of conferences, and I still would be talking about Ambrose Brazelton, who we call Braz. You know, I just do an analogy of a cat. You can go to a pet store or you can rescue a cat and you'll love that cat and that cat will love you forever. But if you have a cat who finds you, comes up to your house, comes up to your door that you've never seen before, and you bring him in, your life will be enriched forever. That cat is there. He has chosen you. He has found you to enrich your life. Braz was the same way. If you were a person who needed some help or wanted to do better or wanted to learn or needed some support, by God, you turn around and Braz was there. And he was there for that purpose. For me, how I met Braz, I was 29 years old and I was appointed to the State Director of Health Physical Education in West Virginia. My first day on the job, I walked in the office at 8 o'clock and my secretary said, "You have a call from a Mr. Brazelton." Oh, I said, great. My first call, and I ran and said, "Mr. Brazelton, can I help you?" He says, "I'm going to be at your office at 10 o'clock tomorrow. I want you to pack for 3 days. We're going to take a trip." And he hung up the phone. So I said to my secretary, "Find out which department he works in, because obviously he must be a director or supervisor who's going to take me around the state and show me around." About an hour later, she came back and said, "We don't have any Mr. Brazelton in the department." And I said, "Well, maybe he's one of the regional supervisors." And I went on with my business. The next morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, Braz walked in, says, "Are you ready?" I said, "Yes." I grabbed my suitcase. We got in the car. And I said, "Where are we going?" He said, "Washington, D.C. There's an elementary physical education conference that you're going to need and want to attend. I'm the keynote speaker, and we're going." I said, "Okay." We started down the road. And I said, "Well, what regional office do you work in?" He says, "Oh, I don't work in West Virginia. I'm the elementary physical education supervisor in the state of Ohio. And I thought you would need this being the first day on the job." And here I was halfway down the road, and I had no idea what I was doing. From that day on, he became my mentor, he became my teacher, and more than that, he became my friend for 47 years, and is the reason I'm here, the reason I've met all these people, and the reason I spent my entire life promoting physical education. So I wanted you to know just a little bit about the kind of man Ambrose Brazelton was. Now, if you've been touched by Ambrose Brazelton, a light goes on in your mind and your life is never the same. If you've never met him, have never been touched, there are a lot of people here who have met him, who have been touched, and they will touch you in the same way. So I am so happy to accept the award for Ambrose Brazelton, and I will see that his family receives it. Thank you.
For many of you, sports, competition, self-sacrifice, determination, these are words on a page, but they mean much, much more. To an Olympic gymnast who has struggled, overcome, and achieved, it's an incredible thing. I myself, although looking at me now, I myself am a former gymnast, did in high school and college, and I'm just so pleased and tickled to have America's most decorated gymnast and Olympian, Shannon Miller, to take the stage. Thank you, Shannon.
So, thank you, first of all, for having me here with you today. This is such a passion of mine. I'm still kind of nervous just from watching that. Last week, we actually celebrated our 18th anniversary of the team gold medal. I feel old. I feel very, very old. Now I have, kids come up and "Oh, so you were, an Olympian." I wasn't born yet. Thanks. Go watch it on YouTube. Now, I'm guessing there's probably a few of you that were actually around during the 1996 games. Yeah, good summer. Was anyone actually in the arena at that time? Because I'm bound and determined to meet all 40,000 people. Usually at least there's a couple of folks. It was amazing. My team, the Magnificent Seven, as we come to be known, we walked into the Georgia Dome that summer, '96, flash bulbs going off, 40,000 screaming spectators, most of the entire arena, USA, and we just thought, this is it. This is our night. We are not leaving this arena without that gold medal. And by the end of the evening there we stood atop that first place podium, receiving the first ever women's gymnastics team Olympic gold medal for the United States of America. And it was magical. So I was up on a podium, you know, a lot like this, and I came down the stairs, and my coach met me at the bottom, and he gave me this big bear hug, and then he took me by the shoulders. He looked deep into my eyes, and he said, "All right, let's get focused, because you've got 3 more competitions to go." Yes, sir. And he was right, You know, you couldn't revel in the glory too much. You had to get refocused. I had the all-around competition, I had the balance beam final, and I also had the vault final. So I went into the all-around competition. For those that don't know, so gymnastics is 4 different apparatus, and so you compete all 4 of those apparatus. And I did pretty well. I stumbled a little bit on the floor exercise. I stepped right out of the bounds with my heel, which is a significant deduction. So I kind of lost any chance of getting in the medals that night. But okay, so I'm gonna redeem myself. During the vault final, I go up, I salute the judge, I run down that 70-foot runway as fast as my little legs will take me, and I hurdle onto that springboard and fly right over the top of the horse and land right on my rear end in front of the world. Not exactly how I saw my Olympics going. And I was embarrassed, and I was pretty devastated and just a little bit terrified, because now I knew I had one event left. The last 90 seconds of my entire Olympic career, the last opportunity I could bring home a medal for my country, and it all came down to balance beam. 4 inches wide, the most feared event in all of gymnastics, and this is what I had to look forward to. And I was scared. That night, I walked up onto the podium. I saluted the head judge, and I held my hands over the top of the beam for just a couple of extra seconds that night. I took a second deep breath, and I just thought, this is it. You know, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all of the repetition, I've done all the work, and you know, there's nothing else I can give at this moment in time. All I can do is give 100%. And that's all that anyone can ask of me, and it's all I can ask of myself. So with that, I just decided I was going to enjoy the moment. And as I moved through the routine, it was the first time that I could remember truly allowing the audience in. Because, you know, from the beginning, you're taught to block everything out that's going on around you, but I wanted to let the audience in, and I needed them. I needed them to carry me through this routine, and they did. And all of a sudden, I was at the end of the beam, arms raised high, ready for the dismount. I said a little prayer. Please, God, just let me land on my feet tonight. I hurtled toward the end of the beam, 1 twist, 2 flips later. When I felt my feet hit the floor, it was the most amazing feeling. This mix of joy and excitement and relief, and I saw my coach Steve jumping up and down, going crazy on the sidelines, and I think I saluted the judge, but who knows at that point. I didn't know what the score was, if there was a medal, what color it might be. I just wanted to live in that moment. And that night, standing there, watching the American flag being raised, and hearing the sound of my national anthem, it truly was a dream come true. Now, that was, as I mentioned, a few years ago. And since then, I've gone through many of the same life changes that everyone goes through. After retiring from the sport at the ripe old age of 19, I gained a significant amount of weight on my 5-foot frame. I had, you know, for much of my life, I had been training 40 hours a week or more, day in and day out. And I went from, you know, top form to 0 in a matter of months. And it just surprised me and my body. You know, I had never worked out as a quote normal person. My idea of a workout was swinging around the uneven bars, flipping across a balance beam, not getting on a treadmill. I'd never been on a treadmill. So what did I turn to after I didn't have those 40 hours to be in the gym any longer? I ate. I watched a lot of television and ate some more. I didn't know how to fill that time. And then one day, it kind of culminated. I'm in my closet, and I'm pulling on my comfy fit jeans. Couldn't get them on. Couldn't get them past my hips. And about 10 minutes later, when I still couldn't get them on and realized that without a can of Crisco, this was not happening, I decided I needed to make a change. I had to face facts. I had to reevaluate what I was doing with my life. I'd never had to worry about my diet or exercise. I had plenty of that. I never worried about how many calories I was taking in. It was more, how many could I get in so I could burn them during those 7 or 8 hour workouts. So I needed to figure out how I was going to do this kind of in real life. And like most women, I immediately went to all the fad diets and the quick fixes because I wanted this to happen now, not 3 months from now, not a year from now. And when I realized that that didn't work, I turned to an everything in moderation approach. Well, at least I turned to that approach after an ill-fated attempt at giving up chocolate. Not so good. I wasn't the type. I'm not the type to give up entire foods or food groups. I like food. I like to eat. And I found out that I can do that and still maintain a healthy lifestyle. But I had to have that moderation not only in my diet, but in my fitness regimen as well. And it didn't happen overnight, but my weight finally did even out. But more important than that, I felt stronger. I was healthier. I was beginning to realize my identity post-gymnastics. Who was Shannon? Not Shannon the gymnast. And it was through that process that I really found my passion for health and fitness, especially as it relates to women and children. My company is Shannon Miller Lifestyle, and we are focused on helping women make their health a priority. And that means everything from focusing on issues like nutrition, diabetes, heart disease, and especially fitness. My foundation is devoted to fighting childhood obesity. I started the foundation in 2007, and our goal is to instill a love of fitness for all children. Let's make it a lifestyle. So when we started the foundation, we realized that there are so many different angles with which you could approach childhood obesity, but for us, we wanted to focus on the activity level. Let's focus on physical activity. If you can get kids active, then you can start making a real difference, and not just in their weight. We're talking about all of the things you know, their confidence, their self-esteem, managing stress, better grades, the ability to focus when they are in the classroom. And I think everyone here in this room and watching understands that fitness is not about the number on the scale. It's about how we feel, how we act, how we approach and conquer challenges each day. It's a healthy attitude. It's making time for ourselves. It is a lifestyle. As a society, we're sadly moving less, eating more and not as healthy. We know what's at stake. It's why you guys are all here instead of, on the beach somewhere taking a well-deserved break. You're passionate about what happens to your children, your own and those that you teach. And it's not an easy road. You all know this better than anyone. But your enthusiasm is infectious. And at the end of the day, you're doing so much more than teaching kids a sport or how to do a pull-up. You're instilling values that will help reduce their risk for serious health issues. We're talking about type 2 diabetes, heart disease, asthma, or hypertension, even certain types of cancer. When you have a rough day and you just don't know if it's worth it, worth the time, worth the effort, worth the headache, think about that. because you aren't just helping these kids enjoy physical activity, you're saving lives. Childhood obesity has been a top priority for me even before I had my two little cuties. My son's now 4.5 years old. My daughter just turned a year old. And I love taking my daughter for walks. My son has become this great kid that you can just get out and do everything with. We go for walks, we play soccer and tennis and golf and kickball and climbing and bike riding. And when we're stuck in the house in those rainy days in Florida, we get to play gym class and stomping on bubble wrap, and one of his favorites is balloon ball. So he's coined the phrase balloon ball. Basically, you blow up a couple of balloons, clear the furniture, and you can't let it hit the ground. Hours of fun for like 10 cents. It's awesome. And it's constant giggling, so it's a great way to just get him active. And then I get the benefit of being active as well. And I'm not sure that I would have been quite as active with him if I hadn't started the foundation, if I hadn't learned about the devastating issues that come along with inactivity. And I know that we are all busy. We've got so many demands on our time. We're all looking for a way to make fitness a little bit easier, a little more fun, a little bit more productive. Enter fitness tech, a wearable technology. I had never heard of the term wearable technology except in recent years. Wearable technology, heart rate monitoring, these things help us to stay engaged. They can help us lead a healthy, active lifestyle by providing motivation, guidance, and the most important thing, accountability. I've recently partnered with Polar to educate families about using heart rate monitors and activity tracking to reach their fitness targets and to help them achieve a healthier lifestyle. And of course, what kid doesn't love technology? I found it with my own son. He actually tweeted a picture of himself the other day. He's just pushing buttons on my phone. I barely know how to tweet, and he's doing it. And I don't let him use the phone. It's amazing what kids are into these days, and so we have to bridge that gap between physical activity and technology. I admit I'm pretty old school. I was one of the last people to get on Twitter, to get on Facebook, all those good things. But once I can figure out how a certain technology can help me multitask, and save me time, somehow add to my lifestyle or alleviate stress, yeah, you bet I'm for it. In gymnastics, back in my day, we didn't utilize heart rate technology, and it certainly was not as accessible as it is these days, although I think it would have been incredibly beneficial for all of us. It's amazing what top athletes are now doing during their training to help them peak at precisely the right time, to help them prevent injury and burnout. Those are so important when you're going for Olympic gold or when you're a professional athlete and this is your job. These types of technologies are used by collegiate and professional athletes, but they're also utilized by everyday folks, just like us, as well as health professionals and, of course, thousands of physical education programs. So here I wanted to learn more about the benefits and the advantages of heart rate and its use as a fun way to bring motivation and guidance so that children can learn to recognize their fitness level, witness their progress, and also see their potential. I think it's good for kids to see when they're doing this happens, and to be able to relate those two things together. And we know that children need 60 minutes of physical activity every day, but unfortunately they're not getting that. Very few schools offer 60 minutes a day of physical activity, and you can't rely on it happening once they get home for a variety of reasons. What great educators do is inspire. You inspire activity even when you are not around to enforce it. You teach children how to listen to their bodies. You teach them why it matters. For all of you that work each day to inspire children to get physically active, and you utilize the resources you have to make it fun for them, thank you. You guys are on the front lines every day making it happen. The impact you make with regard to childhood obesity and getting kids to learn about a healthy lifestyle may not be seen today, It might be a child who won't suffer from type 2 diabetes. It might be a lower risk of heart disease for a child. It might be that that child has less risk of cancer. But you may not see that instant gratification in those areas, but you do see it. I know you do. I know you see it in a child's confidence. I know you see it in their ability to focus, better grades. You can see it in their heart rate data, actual numbers. Aside from PE class, we know that there are so many ways that children and their families can have fun keeping active. And I know that we all wear so many different hats on any given day. We might be teachers and advocates for health, but many of you are also parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. You have other children in your life that you want to take care of. It's a good chance to motivate them as well and to help make healthier choices overall. And sometimes I know that that's easier said than done, especially in this digital age, but we can start by making that good example. And of course, just as families, you use those star charts to track your chores. I really encourage parents and children to track their movement, because I think we forget about those pockets of movement during the day that we can take advantage of. They need to know when they're going to hit those activity goals. We want to make it something important. We don't want health to be something that happens when we have time. I do a talk radio show on the weekends that's all devoted to health. And so I'm interviewing physicians on a weekly basis. And a couple months ago, I interviewed this cardiologist. And he was great. He was talking about heart health and why it's so important, all these things. And at one point he said, when you get up in the morning, you don't think, should I brush my teeth today or not? You just do it. You do it twice a day. You don't get up in the morning and say, I don't know if I'm going to eat today, or maybe I'll just do that next week. You eat, and you eat 3 to 6 times a day, every single day of your life. You make it part of your lifestyle. Why do we not treat fitness the same way? Because it is just important to our health. And I think that's a really good lesson for all of us. It's something I have to remind myself every day. And we'll get our kids, we're horrible at focusing on ourselves because, that's being selfish. If I'm taking time for myself, I'm taking it away from somebody else, my kids, my husband, anyone else. We make time to get them to the doctor's appointments, to all of their activities. We help them to eat right. But what are we doing for ourselves? We have to make sure that we understand it's not a selfish act to make our own health a priority. Because at the end of the day, you're helping set an example for how they treat themselves down the road. What are we teaching our children every day if we reinforce the idea that, I'll take care of my health when I have time? Make yourself a great example. The American Heart Association states that increased physical activity has been associated with increased life expectancy, decreased risk of cardiovascular disease, a host of other benefits. Who knew, right? Big surprise. But what actually was a big surprise to me in this world of wearable tech is that heart rate is the only true measure of exercise intensity. When measured appropriately, heart rate can act as a clear indicator of the body's response to exercise. It helps us make the most of our workouts. Talk about time management and productivity. Heart rate monitoring is important because it tells in detail the effects of any exercise. It's based on you as an individual. It's real-time feedback. It allows you to follow your fitness improvement, which motivates you to keep going. It's about personal improvement, not holding yourself to someone else's standard. And I believe that every child should understand the importance of working at their own individual intensity level. And some children will try to push themselves too hard to the point that they get injured or burn out. And others, maybe they slack off a little bit because they can get by with it. The natural athletes that don't have to work quite as hard for the grade. Finding your child's individual target heart rate will help you know the type and amount of movement that's needed for a child to reach an appropriate, healthy intensity level. I had the incredible opportunity to visit many schools throughout the nation, particularly in Florida as co-chair of the Governor's Council of Physical Fitness and with Polar. It's been incredible to see how technology is transforming the learning experience in these classrooms. In Champaign, Illinois, I went into one classroom and they're taking the 10-minute brain breaks. That was the toughest dancing 10 minutes I've ever done in my life. These kids were just mopping the floor with me. And after that, I went into the 5th grade PE class, where they showed me how they use heart monitors to track their progress. They use their activity watches, and I loved seeing them so active, but mostly I loved how happy they were about it. I mean, they were so excited to show me how many steps they took or where they were in their intensity level. They loved it. They were thriving. At another school, I got to witness the unveiling of this incredible heart rate module. So picture, a gym, I don't know, maybe a third of this size. You got 100 kids in there, all hooked up to heart rate monitors. You've got 3 teachers with iPads tracking every single child and their heart rate. And you've got these kids are cheering for each other. They're going crazy. It's like, the gold medal round at the Olympic Games, and it's just another day at PE class. It was so awesome, and at one point in the midst of all this craziness, a teacher turned to me and she said, I have to tell you, I was terrified about this technology. I can barely use my phone, but it's so easy. And that's what I've found as well. Sometimes we can be scared of technology, but when you start to use it and realize how easy it is and how beneficial, all of a sudden the light bulb goes on and you start thinking of 50 other ways you can utilize the technology to benefit your personal class. Fitness Tech helps instill healthy habits both inside and outside of the classroom. And it's amazing to see these children, they take the stuff home. They inspire their siblings, they inspire their parents to get moving. Even at our foundation, we had, the first year we had our little fun run, and the kids had to train up until the 1 mile run. So they ran 25 miles in the 12 weeks leading up to the race, and then the last 1.2 on race day. And we had a mother write in 2 years after that first race, and she said, I just have to tell you that I was morbidly obese and could not get out and run 5 minutes with my son, but he wanted to do this race, and I can't allow him to be out trying to run and train it by himself in our neighborhood. So I had to go with him, and I had to work on that, and it took me a long time. 2 years later, she ran her first marathon from her 6-year-old son, just getting her active because it's something he knew he wanted to do. I mean, it's those stories that you guys are a part of every single day. What you do matters. Technology is absolutely incredible. It provides positive reinforcement. It tracks progress. It also promotes safe, effective workouts. With heart rate technology, teachers can assess how hard a student is working and ensure that they're doing so safely. And it makes PE fun. It's fun for the kids because, again, they get to kind of match that technological world with the physical activity. And I've heard from so many physical education teachers, just like yourself, who remind me that the goal is to find an objective assessment instead of just trying to view it. The main point is to have children exercising at the right intensity so that they aren't wasting time in PE or overtraining or undertraining, because that's how we lose them. Heart rate levels the playing field. Each child is being compared to what is appropriate for that child. And technology has taken that good old PE class where you have a few kids running that 6-minute mile, and then you have the Olympic gymnast running the 10.5-minute mile. Yeah, that would be me. Spring, before I went into the Olympics, won 5 Olympic medals, I ran my best mile ever, over 10 minutes. Yeah, so I was a little embarrassed, but we run 70 foot, that's it. At 70 feet, I either hit a springboard or I lie down. But heart rate levels that playing field. When you combine things that children love, it is a recipe for success. So we know that the earlier we reach children, make activity a part of their lifestyle, the better chance they have of sticking with it for a lifetime. So I'm definitely excited about the technological advances with regard to children, our next generation, and keeping them fit and healthy. But I'm also very excited and very interested in making life easier for all of us, making it a little more healthy for all of us. Certainly there's a pretty good amount of training that's involved with my journey to the Olympic gold medal, but it's more difficult to train, to work out now than it ever was as a gymnast. You know, as a gymnast, all I had to do was focus on training and school, nothing else. You know, when you're an adult, you've got so much more to worry about. I got a company and a foundation and 2 kids and a husband and a puppy, because we thought it would be really a good idea to have a newborn and a puppy at the same time. I was not thinking straight. I sit on planes for a good deal of time. I sit behind a computer for a good deal of time. I have to find those small moments during the day where I can squeeze in physical activity, and I can't feel bad about making activity a part of my lifestyle on a daily basis. I can't feel guilty about that. So when you start doing the math and you're adding all of this stuff up within a 24-hour day, it's a bit overwhelming. And I do try my best to practice what I preach. We all lead very busy, very demanding lives, but somehow we have to find a way to make ourselves matter. We may not have a 60-minute block of time. We may not even have a 30-minute block of time that we can devote to exercise. But I know for me, if I can take 10 minutes, if I can get a solid 10 minutes where I can get my heart rate up for 10 minutes, jumping jacks, jumping rope. You guys have jumped rope for 10 minutes, right? That is a full body workout. Jumping rope. Turn up the tune, start dancing as my son laughs hysterically at my moves. 10 minutes. Try to do that 3 to 4 times a day, and you're golden. It's just squeezing that in when you have those times. How many of you know someone, or maybe you did it this yourself, you start out in January going gangbusters with the healthy New Year's resolutions, right? This is the year I'm going to get healthy. You know, maybe you have someone that's never run more than a mile, and all of a sudden they're signing up for a marathon, because this is it, this is the year. They're training, 6-7 days a week in the gym. But what happens in February? Now, I'm not saying that it's not possible, but for the majority of folks, it's not reality when you set the goal so high and you don't have those small steps along the way, those goals you need to achieve every single day. Now, you're never going to find me, of all people, saying that, goal's too big, but I think it's important to take those baby steps along the way. Yeah, if you want to run a marathon, great. It's not going to happen next month if you never run a mile. But what are the steps that you can take in order to get to that point? We have to do that with our health goals. You have to have a goal, and then you have to find those small steps to change your lifestyle. Maybe it is just dropping 1 can of soda a day and replacing it with water. Maybe it is watching those portion sizes, those small changes that make a huge difference in the long run. The exciting thing that we know today is that we have so much more opportunity and so much more help and support through technology to really get us to that goal. By monitoring our heart rate and activity, you can get a pretty good idea of your true physical activity. You can even figure out how much sleep you're getting at night. Technology is changing the way that we look at exercise. Fitness makes us feel better. Fitness makes me feel better. It makes me happy to be able to get out and move. For me, that was not always the case. In 2011, I faced the biggest challenge of my life. I was diagnosed with a rare form of ovarian cancer. I went through a very difficult surgery, followed by 9 weeks of a very aggressive chemotherapy regimen. And there were days I could not get out of bed. On the good days, the best days, I could get up and I could get dressed and maybe go for a 10-minute walk with my son or do 10 minutes of gentle yoga. Those were good days. It was a far cry from that Olympic gymnast standing up there on top of that podium in the best shape of my life, but I can tell you it was just as exciting. Everyone in this room understands the importance of physical activity for us and for our children. And yes, we can cite plenty of studies that show an increase in brain function with certain amounts of physical activity. If you're a teacher, you know that your kids are able to focus better and are more productive when they have a chance to exercise, and a lot of that's common sense. When you exercise, whether you're the parent or the child or the educator, you feel better during the day. You sleep better at night. Of course, we all like to have numbers. We like that tangible evidence. Let me see it, ink on paper. How does this work? And as schools look to cut PE from their curriculum, can the physical education program provide tangible evidence that they're making a difference? And the answer is yes, absolutely. You can use fitness testing, you can use heart rate monitoring to report school-specific data, numbers, tangible evidence. Even more exciting is that children can see, they can witness themselves and learn firsthand how physical activity affects their health and well-being. If we really want to change the path we're on, and I know that we do, if we really want to make fitness a priority, we need to look at what works. Now is not the time to cut back on physical activity. It is the time to enhance it. Take that little amount of time that you have to work with and make it meaningful. More aerobic activity, get that heart rate up. Help children take control of their own health. Let's set a good example for them in the choices that we make each day. And fitness gives us so much. We know that. It helps us in all aspects of our lives. It feeds our mind, our body, our souls. We can allow technology to take fitness and activity away from us, sure. But we can also choose to utilize technology to help us to achieve our fitness and activity goals. We get to make it work for us so that children remain active and engaged, and so that old school folks like me can easily see the benefits and the way that tech can encourage us, can motivate us, can inspire us to be the very best that we can be every day. Thank you again for all that you do and for having me here to be with you today.
Shannon, thank you very much. I mean, it's just really cool to have you here and taking time out of a very, very busy life. Thank you for being so encouraging for us.